Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we're going to prepare for the GMAT. We have been solving GMAT math problems out of this book here, GMAT Review, the official guide, the 13th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. We are in the process of solving problems, as I said, math problems from the book here. This book contains 230 problem solving questions. It contains 174 data sufficiency questions. In reality, we have already solved every single math problem from this book. If you're interested in watching the original solutions to any of the problem, you will find the original solutions from day number 1 through 250. We are in the process of redoing the problems at a little bit of a faster pace. We are on page number 276. Please turn to it, page number 276, and today is our lesson number 258. Problem number 15 is what we are about to do. Problem 15 tells us, well, problem 15 is asking us what's the cube root? What's the cube root of W? And the first statement tells us that the fifth root is 64. Now listen, here's the deal. You have to understand what these problems are all about. What are these problems called? These problems are called data sufficiency for a good reason. They are called data sufficiency for a good reason because here we are simply being asked, do we have enough data to be able to answer the question that is being posed? We don't actually have to answer the question. We simply have to be able to tell yes or no. Yes, we do have enough data. No, we do not have enough data. That's all. We don't actually have to answer the question. The fact that they tell us that the fifth root of some number is 64, that you should be able to see immediately is in itself sufficient. If I know the fifth root, I can figure out any root. Any root. If we know a fifth root of a number, we can figure out the number. And if we can figure out the number, we can figure out the cube root. We don't actually have to do anything at all here. This information by itself is quite sufficient. AD, BCE. AD, BCE. And if you still do not know what I just did here, make sure you watch the intro. Just type in data sufficiency intro, watch that video so that you understand how we set up these problems. Because we just established that the first statement is in itself sufficient, we know now that the answer cannot be B, C, or E. It will have to be either A or D. What we are about to do is a sheer waste of time. This is not something we'll do in the real exam. Nobody is asking us what that number is. Nobody is asking us what the cube root of the number is. They're simply asking us, do you have enough information based on what is being told in the first statement to be able to figure out the cube root of W? The answer is yes. We're going to actually do it out now just for learning purposes, for no other reason, just for learning purposes. Like I said, in the real exam, if you sit down and actually did it out, it'll be a foolish thing to do. It'll be a damn silly thing to do. It'll be a sheer waste of time. We are told that the fifth root of a number is 64. Well, if fifth root is 64, that implies that the number itself, W, must be 64 raised to 5. We also realize that 64 can be written as 4 cubed raised to 5. Therefore, this can be written as 4 raised to 5 to the third power. They are all the same thing. And now we have to figure out the cube root. Well, cube root of the bloody thing, the cube root of the bloody thing is going to be this part right here. It's the cube root of 4 raised to 5 raised to 3. And since it's raised to 3, cube root is just going to be this quantity right here. 4 raised to 5 is the answer. That's your number. The number that we're looking for, the cube root of W, is 4 raised to 5. That's all. As you can see, it's enough. Let's move on then. Second statement. But like I said, this was a waste of time. Do you understand? The 15th root is 4. Again, the same exact logic is going to apply. Nothing is going to change. Same exact logic, same exact steps will apply. Point is that we should be able to realize immediately that second statement by itself is also quite sufficient, which means the answer is D. We won't actually do out any work in the exam. Do you understand? Let's do it here for learning purposes. The 15th root is 4. 15th root is 4. That implies that W must be 4 raised to 15 which can be written as 4 raised to 5 to the third, and the rest is the same. That's all. Let's do the next one, shall we? Next problem. Problem number 16. In problem number 16, we are told that x follows y on a bridge that is half a mile long. X is going to follow y on a bridge, and we are told that the bridge is half a mile long. Okay, stay with me in the story. It's very important that we stay in the story. Question is, how long does x take to cross the bridge? We have to figure out how long is x going to take to cross the bridge. Let's find out what they tell us, okay? These problems are not particularly difficult. These problems simply require a great deal of concentration. You must know what is being told, and you must understand what is being asked. We don't actually have to solve the problem. As long as we can establish that we have enough information to be able to answer the question, that is all it is. It's a data sufficiency. We're simply being asked, do you have sufficient data? Here we are told, in the statement 1, we are told that x started 3 seconds later and finished 2 seconds later. We are told that this x guy, he got on the bridge 3 seconds after y did, and he got off the bridge 2 seconds later. What does it tell us? What does it, if you put these two part bits of information, if he had started 2 seconds, if he had started 2 seconds later than the other guy, and if he had finished 2 seconds later than the other guy, that would have implied that they both took the same amount of time. The fact that he started 3 seconds later than the other guy but finished only 2 seconds later than the other guy, that tells us that this implies that x took 1 second less than y. S must have taken 1 second less than y. But this does not tell us, unless we know somehow how much x took, we cannot answer how long. Oh, actually, that is the question. How much does x take? All we know at this point is that x took 1 second less than y. But because we do not know exactly how long y took, all we know is that x took whatever amount that y took. X took 1 second less than that. But because we do not know how much y took, we cannot answer the question how long does x take. The first statement is not sufficient. First statement is not sufficient. AD BCE. AD BCE. Because we just established that the first statement is not sufficient by itself. It's very important that we emphasize that it is not sufficient by itself. We do not know what's going to happen when we get to a stage where, if we get to the stage where we put the two statements together. Answer cannot be A or D at this stage in the game. We're going to move on to the second statement. If it turns out that the second statement by itself, is sufficient, then the answer would be B. If not, then we'll move on and put the two statements together. Let's go to the next one. The statement 2 tells us that y goes 30 miles per hour. Well, if y is going 30 miles per hour, that implies that the y must take 2 minutes for 1 mile. That's what 30 miles per hour means. Had it been going 60 miles per hour, he would have covered 1 mile every minute. Because he's going half the speed instead of 60 miles per hour, we are told that he's going 30 miles per hour. That tells us that it's going to take twice the amount of time per mile. It's going to take 2 minutes per mile. The bridge is only half a mile long. So therefore that implies that y must cross the bridge. Oh, I think we're done. Cross the bridge in 1 minute. What the hell? Y must cross the bridge in 1 minute, I think. Oh no, we're looking for x. You see how easy it is? It's important that we pay attention to what is being asked and what is being told. We are not, the question was not how long y takes, the question is how long does x take. Okay, you see, this is, I almost blew it. I was almost ready to pick answer choice B because I thought we found the answer of y is taking 1 minute. The question is how long does x take? Well, simply knowing how long y takes does not enable us to figure out how long x takes. Second statement by itself is not enough. Second statement by itself is not enough. Let's put them together. When we put them together, well, now it's quite enough because we know that this guy is taking 1 minute. From the first statement, we know the other guy is taking 1 second less, or 1 second less, or 1 second more. I don't remember. It doesn't matter whether he takes 1 second less or more. But the point is, if we know how long y takes, we know we can figure out x. It turns out that he takes 1 second less. So if you put them together it implies that x must take 59 seconds. And the answer, of course, is C in that case. Again, one more time, I keep reminding you over and over and over again, you must understand the parts that I do on the blackboard, the parts that we do together here, that is a waste of time, and the parts, the bits and pieces that you need to do in the exam. This was a sheer waste of time. We don't actually have to figure out how long x took. Immediately, we should be able to tell that if we know that this guy is taking 1 minute, and that was a waste of time also. This is all waste of time. You simply have to understand that if you know the speed of the guy, if we know the speed and we know how long he has to go, we can figure out how long it takes. Once we know why, that tells us that then in itself is not enough. The answer is not B. Immediately, we don't do this work here. We do not do this work in the real exam. We say to ourselves, it is possible to figure out the amount of time that y takes from the second statement. The first statement tells us the other guy takes 1 second less. Well, that's enough. That's it. The answer is C. Putting the two together will do the job. Let's go to the next one, shall we? Number 17. If you want to if you have any hope at all of getting a decent score, you must separate the amount of work, the minimum, absolute minimum amount of work that is necessary, and amount of work that is not required, not called for, unnecessary, waste of time. Do you understand? Which is where I find a lot of time people sitting there and actually solving the problems, actually solving the bloody things. Nobody's asking us to do that. Number 17. The reason I solve them on the blackboard is because otherwise I would just stand here and simply go question by question and simply tell you this is sufficient, this is not sufficient, this is not sufficient. You're not going to get anything out of that. You understand? Number 17. If n plus k is equal to m, we are told, question is how much is k? How much is k? Well, first statement tells us that n is 10. Well, simply knowing that n is 10 does not enable us to figure out k unless we know the value of m. And the first statement tells us nothing at all about m. So it's by itself is not enough. The first statement by itself is no good. A, D, B, C, E. This part you must do it. This is necessary. This is not a waste of time. Each time the data sufficiency question pops up on the screen, you must write down this layout A, D, B, C, E. That's how we keep our work straight. This is how we keep our thinking straight. The first statement is not enough, which tells us the answer cannot be A or D. Second statement. The second statement tells us that m plus 10 equals n. Well, if m plus n equals 10, then m minus n must equal negative 10. And if you look at this, if you look at what is being told here, if you look at this equation here, from this equation we realize that k equals m minus n. K equals m minus n. We just figure out that m minus n is 10, negative 10. Second statement does the job beautifully. The answer is B. Okay, it does not need to do it beautifully, as long as it does the damn thing. Number 18, shall we? Number 18. In number 18, we are told that the first row contains 18 seats. First row in the theater, we are told, contains 18 seats. We are told that each row after the first is 2 more than the previous one. For those of you who are familiar with the concept of arithmetic series, you can immediately see that what we're dealing with here is a very simple, very babyish arithmetic series. We start out with 18 and we just go up 2 more each row. Second row is going to have 20 seeds, third row is going to have 22 seeds, and so on and so forth until the cows come home. Do you understand? The question is, how many total number of seeds do we have? To answer this question, we need to know the number of rows, obviously. If we know the number of rows, we can figure out how many seeds there are, because it says 2 more each time. We start out with 18, then 20, then 22, 24, so on and so forth. If we know how many rows there are, then it's just a matter of adding up the seeds. Let's see what they tell us. Oh, there you go, 27 rows. What the hell? 27 rows. Well, if we know how many rows there are 27 rows. Now, as I always reminded you before in the past, if you have watched my other videos, I'm going to put my cap here so it doesn't dry, because I'm about to break into a sermon. Okay, listen carefully. As I always remind you, during the exam, you have 2 choices. You have 2 choices as to how you're going to behave during the exam. You have a choice of behaving like a human being, or you have a choice of behaving like a bloody puppet. You can behave like a puppet if you want to. Just because they tell us that I have 27 rows, as a matter of fact, by itself, you should be able to see that if you have 27 rows, it's just a matter of adding up 27 numbers. But if you want to keep it simple for yourself, cut the strings. Ask yourself, can I quickly figure out how many seats will be if we had been told that there were 7 rows? Of course, we already have 4 numbers. We have to add, there you go, it's just a matter of these numbers. If you add up these numbers, we'll have the total number of seats. The fact that instead of 7 rows, we have 27 rows doesn't actually change anything. Do you understand? The first statement by itself does the job quite nicely. A, D, B, C, E. It does the job quite nicely. Answer cannot be B, C, or E. It will have to be either A or D. If it turns out the second statement by itself also does the job, then the answer will be D. If it turns out that the second statement does not provide us enough information to be able to answer the question, the answer will turn out to be A. Let's find out. Second statement. In the second statement, they tell us that the last row has 70 seeds. Well, that's very straightforward. This is nothing to it. We have to figure out how many total seats are in the theater. If I know how many seats there are in the last row, and if we know that they go up by 2 each time, it's just a matter of working backwards. We start with 70, 68, 66, 64, so on and so forth, until we get to the first row where we're told is 18. There you go. And now it's simply a matter of physically, manually adding them up. That's all. If we do not know the formula for arithmetic series, which I'm not going to go into here because we don't want to make it too nerdy, too geeky. Okay, there is a nerdy way, there is a geeky way, there is a classical, academic, conventional, orthodox, traditional way of doing this problem. The algebraic way, we're not going to do it here. Do you understand? Just understand that it's simply a matter of adding up these numbers. That's all it is. Now, for those of you who are out there who are very proud and they carry the badge of being a nerd and a geek and a freak, we won't name any names, but for those of you, as a service to you guys, I'll actually tell you the formula. The formula, of course, is this. The sum is going to be n over 2. But you see, we're going to have to do a lot of work to figure out. This is a lot of work, because we have to first figure out the n. And the n part is going to come from the fact that the last row, the final row, is going to be the n minus 1 times d. And we are told that this is 70. And first we have to figure out this, we have to solve this equation for n, and it's a lot of work. And when we do that, n minus 1 equals 35, because d is 2, and then actually it's not a lot of work, it's 36. Why am I getting 36? It should be, what did I make a mistake here? Oh, the last row, which we are told is 70, is going to be, that's why I don't want to do it. The last row, which we are told is 70, it's going to have f, the number of f, which is the first row, not the final row. This is the first row, n minus 1 over d. And that's going to be 18 plus n minus 1, which is which will remain n minus 1 times 2, that equals 70, and you solve for n is going to turn out to be 27, just as before, The first statement told us that there were 27 rows, it's going to remain 27 rows. The two statements never contradict each other. Once we know the n, we have to put it in another formula to figure out the final seats, which of course we're not going to do it because they're not asking us how many seats there are. They're simply asking us, can we figure it out? The answer is yes. But this is a very academic thing. We don't have to do any of this thing. Once we know the number of seats, once we know that n is 27, then we have to put it in this formula here, which is n over 2, 2a plus n minus 1 times b, and this is rapidly turning into a freak show. You understand? We want to take the exam. We do not want to turn it into a freak show. The reason I'm doing this thing here to actually make you realize that it is a freak show. This is not what we do in the exam. Next problem. What we need to understand is that these people who give you the exam, these are not as absurd and as unreasonable and as weird, as outlandish it may sound, what I'm about to tell you, but it is true. These people who give you the exam, these people are not unreasonable people. If they're giving you a problem and they expect you to solve the problem in 1 minute, then there must be a way to solve it in 1 minute. What I just showed you with the formula and so forth, that's not something that somebody can do in 1 minute. You understand? So there has to be a quicker way. Quicker way is simply to realize that it's just a matter of adding up the numbers manually. We're not going to actually do it. The answer is yes, it is possible. Do we have enough information to figure out the total number of seats? The answer is yes. Simply add up the numbers. Start with 70, reduce it by 2. 70 is 68, 66, 64, on and on. Until we get to the first row, we are told the first row was, I forget how much it was, until we get to 18. And just add up the numbers. That's it. No need for any formulas. Number 19. In triangle PQR, we are told that PQ is equal to X, QR is equal to X plus 2, QR is equal to X plus 2, and PR, we are told, is Y. So here's our triangle, if you like. Let's call it P, Q, and R. PR, we are told is PQ, we are told is X, Q to R, we are told is X plus 2, and this is the part we are told is Y. The triangle looks like this. We know nothing at all about this triangle so far, other than the fact that one side is 2 more than the first one, and the third side we know nothing about. You understand? Let's look at the first step. Now, what is the question asking? The question is, which of these 3 angles is going to be the greatest angle? Which of the sides is the longest? Which of the side is the, sorry, not, which of the 3 angles, which of the 3 angles is the greatest? Which of the 3 angles is the greatest? The concept that they're testing here is that, I don't know if I need to write it down or I can just speak. In a given triangle, in any triangle, in a given triangle, let's write it down. In a given triangle, opposite sides and angles are proportional. In a given triangle, opposite sides and angles are proportional. 2 things we have to notice here. First of all, notice the use of the article it's not the, it's not any particular triangle. It doesn't have to be a right angle triangle or isosceles triangle or acute triangle or obtuse triangle or any particular kind of triangle or equilateral triangle. It could be any triangle. In any given triangle, in a triangle, always opposite sides and angles are proportional. What that means is that if you have a triangle, the smallest side will always face the smallest angle, and the largest side, which in this case happens to be this side right here, will always face the largest angle. Which is why in a right angle triangle, hypotenuse is always the longest side because it faces the largest angle. You can see? So what this means here, in a given triangle, opposite sides and angles are proportional. In a given triangle, the opposite sides and angles are proportional. What that means in English language is that the largest side in any given triangle is always face the largest angle, and the smallest side will always face the smallest angle. Mind you, it says they are proportional. It does not say they are not, it does not say strictly proportional. I'm going to take a second to make you understand the difference between the two concepts. The concept of being proportional and being strictly proportional. I'm going to give you an example to make you understand. We're digressing big time, but that's okay. I'm going to do it right here. Let's look at this triangle here. Okay? I'm telling you that this is 30 degrees. I'm telling you that this is 60 degrees. I'm telling you this is 90 degrees. Okay? Keep listening. The side that faces 30 degrees is 1. The side that faces 60 degrees is 2. Now notice what happens. Just because the side that faces 30 degrees is 1 and the side that faces 60 degrees is 2, that does not mean that the side that is going to face 90 degrees, the hypotenuse which faces the 90 degree, it does not mean that that's going to be 3. That does not mean that. That would have been the case if the nature had created a triangle in such a way that they were strictly proportional. That is not how nature works. The phenomenon that we observe in nature is that if we draw a triangle, then the opposite sides and angles are proportional but not strictly proportional. The side that faces an angle that is twice as large as another side that faces an angle that is half as much does not mean that the other side is going to be twice as long. It doesn't mean that. You understand? The hypotenuse is not going to be 3 times as much as the side facing the 30 degrees is 1. That does not mean that the side facing 90 degrees is going to be 3, as you can clearly see here. 1 squared plus 2 squared does not equal 3. The correct answer, of course, we know is going to be 2.2 something. It's the square root of 5. This is wrong. Do you understand? Anyway, the bottom line here is that because they are asking us which one of these angles is the greatest angle, what they are essentially asking us here, which of these 3 sides is the longest side. That's all they are asking us. That is all that is being asked here. If we know which side is the longest side, then the angle facing that particular side is going to be the greatest angle. Do you understand that? Let's get going now. It's very important we understand that part now. If you understand that concept, then this question is a cinch. Like that. There's nothing in it. Let's look at first statement. Let's look at the first statement. If we can establish which side is the longest side, we are done. That's it. We are done. The first statement tells us that y equals x plus 3. What do you know? Y equals x plus 3. What the hell? If y equals x plus 3 and this is x plus 2 and this is x, y is the longest side. If y is the longest side, if this is the longest side, then the angle facing y is the largest angle. The first statement by itself does the job very nicely. And if you had understood its concept from the very beginning, this entire work that we just did here should have taken no more than 3 seconds. Do you understand? AD, BCE. Because we just established that the first statement by itself is quite sufficient, we know answer cannot be B, C, or D. It would have to be either A or D. Let's look at second statement. The second statement tells us that x equals 2. Now it's very important that we get to the next statement, that you erase all the information that you had from the previous information. Always, everything that you wrote down before, it has to be erased. This is why, this is all we know. In the second statement they tell us that x equals 2. Well, if x equals 2, we know that p to q is 2. We also know that q to r is 4. But that does not tell us anything at all as to what y is. We have no way of establishing the length of PR, and until we know the length of PR, we are unable to ascertain which of these 3 sides is the longest side, and if we cannot ascertain which of these 3 sides is the longest side, we cannot establish which one of these 3 angles is the largest angle. It is impossible. The second statement by itself does not do the job. The answer is A. The answer is A. Let's move on. Number 20. Number 20. Number 20 is asking us what's the value of n. What is the value of n? And this is what we're given here: n, 15, 12, 9, and 20. The first statement tells us that n is some number more than 12. Exactly, that's my sentiments exactly. That is exactly what I said to myself when I read this thing. N equals more than 12. To which we will say, what the hell? How is that going to help me what n is? That does not tell us anything at all as to what exactly n is. They are asking us what's the value of n. Simply knowing that the bloody thing is more than 12 doesn't get us anywhere. Does not get us anywhere. The first statement by itself is no good. The first statement by itself is not sufficient. A, D, B, C, E. Second statement, let's see if it gets us anywhere. Second statement tells us that the median is 13. Median is 13. Well, do you see any 13 in here? Do you see any bloody 13 in here? Because of the fact, listen very carefully, okay? This is the argument. Listen, how many numbers do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. Keep this listening very carefully, okay? Understand the logic, understand the argument. You must present the argument, you must present your thoughts in a very cogent manner, in a very persuasive, cogent manner. That's the G. We'll learn this word in a second. The cogent argument here would be, because of the fact that we have odd number of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that tells us that the median has to be the middle number. We are told that the median is 13. I don't see a bloody 13 here, do you? Or because of the fact that we do not see 13 here, that in itself is enough to establish that this number, the n guy, the unknown guy, must be 13. The median has to be like this. We start out with the smallest number, 9, then 12, then we need our median, then we have our 15, and then we have our 20. Well, this n there, this n that is sitting in the middle has to be 13. Rather, the other way around. Because 13 is sitting in the middle, that 13 has to be n. That's it. Second statement does the job. Second statement by itself does the job quite nicely. And that is all she wrote. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye now.